The sun beat down on the vast, acacia-dotted landscape of the Masai Mara, a familiar heat that had settled into Ranger Kipkemboi Ruto's bones over 15 years. Today, however, the familiar comfort of the land was overshadowed by a creeping unease. His radio, usually a source of mundane updates, crackled with an urgency that felt alien. It was an urgent distress call from old Saruni, a Maasai elder whose voice carried the weight of generations of wisdom and an unspoken plea. There is a lion, Kipkemboi. Oli Saruni's voice, usually calm as the savanna wind, was strained. He cannot see. He is alone. The others, they have left him. Kipkemboi's pulse quickened. The words struck a primal chord. For an apex predator, blindness wasn't just an infirmity. It was a slow, agonizing death sentence, a void from which there was no escape. He knew the brutal laws of the bush. He pushed his land cruiser across the dusty plains, the engine a low growl beneath him, until he reached the coordinates given. Old Saruni stood waiting, his slender figure a stark silhouette against the setting sun, pointing to a cluster of fever trees shimmering in the heat haze. He has been there for 3 days, the elder said, his gaze fixed on the trees. No food, little water. The hyenas will find him soon. Through his binoculars, Kip Kemboi focused. What he saw stole his breath. Lying motionless, barely breathing, was a young male lion. His ribs were starkly visible beneath his tawny hide, a skeletal map of starvation. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle, as if listening to a world he could no longer see. And his eyes, they were entirely milky white, opaque orbs that stared blindly at nothing. My God, Kip Kemboi whispered, the sound raw. Complete blindness in a young male. Ole Saruni moved closer, his face etched with ancient sorrow. In old days, we would say the spirits had taken his sight. But now I think perhaps they brought you here to us. The elder's words, a blend of ancient mysticism and modern pragmatism, pricked at Kipkemboi's conscience. He was no superstitious man, but something about this felt deeply wrong, unnatural. Steeling himself, Kipkemboi reached for his radio. Kenya Wildlife Service HQ, he stated, his voice professional but firm. Ranger Ruto reporting, adult male lion, approximately 8 years old, severe bilateral cataracts, complete blindness, malnourished, and request immediate medical intervention. The response was immediate and cautious. Kip Kemboi, that's a significant resource allocation. What's the prognosis for successful rehabilitation? We have protocols for a reason. He understood the unspoken question. Was this a futile gesture? Was he breaching protocol for a lost cause? The dilemma was agonizing, a conflict between duty and the profound ache of compassion. Unknown at this time, Kip Kemboi replied, his voice betraying no hesitation despite the turmoil churning within him. But I'm requesting emergency intervention regardless. It was a high-risk decision, putting his judgment and potentially his career on the line. As they waited, the blind lion, Simba Nguvu, occasionally lifted his head, a pathetic, mournful call carrying across the silent savanna. It was a sound of profound loneliness, a desperate echo in the vastness. He is calling for his family, Ole Saruni said quietly, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon, where the pride would be. An hour later, the dust cloud announced Dr. Zawadi Onyango's arrival. The lead veterinarian, known for her sharp intellect and no-nonsense approach, quickly set up her equipment. She studied the lion through her own binoculars, her brow furrowed. Cataracts that severe don't develop overnight, she mused, more to herself than to them. But the specific pattern here, in a wild lion this young, is atypical. Her words were a subtle shift, a crack in the natural order of things. They spoke briefly of the harsh realities, how a pride would inevitably abandon a liability, how nature could be unsparingly cruel. But the conversation felt hollow to Kip Kemboi. His internal conflict deepened with Dr. Onyango's observation. Was this truly just nature taking its course? Or was something far more sinister at play, something human-made, lurking beneath the surface? The tranquilizer dart found its mark with a soft thud. As the team moved in, careful and practiced, Kip Kemboi approached the subdued lion. Up close, Simba Nguvu's eyes were even more disturbing. completely white, like staring into a dense fog, reflecting no light, no life. Onyango quickly began her initial examination, her gloved hands probing. Aside from the cataracts and malnutrition, he appears to be in relatively good health, she announced, confirming Kipkemboi's gut feeling that this wasn't just simple disease. But I want tissue samples. This blindness feels engineered. Simba Nguvu was carefully transported, a silent, weighty presence, to the specialized wildlife rehabilitation facility. Temporarily named Geno, meaning to build in Swahili, it hummed with a quiet urgency. Inside the sterile operating theater, bathed in the cool glow of surgical lights, Dr. Zawadi Onyango prepared for the delicate task ahead. She briefed Kipkemboi, her voice precise, analytical. Complete bilateral cataracts in a wild male this age combined with prolonged psychological trauma from months of blindness. That's unprecedented territory. Even if we restore his vision, his brain has adapted to blindness. She gestured to the sedated lion, a powerful animal reduced to a vulnerable patient. The procedure is straightforward. Replace the clouded lenses. But I've also expedited the tissue analysis from the biopsy we took. I have a bad feeling about this, Kipkemboi. Kipkemboi watched from the observation window, the transparent barrier offering no solace. He paced, the scent of antiseptic doing little to quell the gnawing worry in his gut. Ole Saruni sat beside him, still impatient, his gaze calm. Perhaps you are thinking like a human instead of like a lion, the elder observed quietly, his words a gentle reminder of the wild world they were trying to mend. The surgery was a 2-hour dance of precision, Dr. Onyango's hands moving with practiced grace. Finally, she emerged, stripping off her gloves, a cautious optimism in her eyes. It was successful, she announced, a small sigh of relief escaping her lips. The artificial lenses are in place. Now we wait. But the waiting was short-lived. A tense, hushed call came through, and Dr. Onyango pulled Kipkemboi aside, her face now grim. Kipkemboi, she began, her voice low, the lab results are back. I found traces of a unique heavy metal, thallium, in Simba Nguvu's ocular fluid and tissue samples. This is not natural. The word thallium hung in the air, a cold alien presence. Kipkemboi felt a jolt of shock, then a wave of cold dread. Thallium, he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. What does that mean? How did it get there? Onyango's expression hardened. It's a highly toxic pollutant, often found in industrial runoff or specific mining processes. It could absolutely explain the rapid, severe cataract progression we observed. It's a poison. We need to find the source. The implications hit Kipkemboi with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't just a rescue, it was an environmental crime, a deliberate act or a devastating consequence of human negligence. The thought was terrifying. This could be dangerous, Zawadi, he warned, his voice grave. Powerful people won't want this exposed. Mining interests, industrial operations. They have long arms. Simba Nguvu's post-operative recovery was slow, a testament to the weeks he had spent in darkness. Still bandaged, he moved with the hesitant, uncertain gait he had developed, relying entirely on scent and sound, his once magnificent movements reduced to a tentative shuffle. He's forgotten that looking is even an option, Dr. Onyango noted sadly, observing him. The world he inhabited was still a sensory map, not a visual one. On the 4th day the moment arrived. The veterinary team with Kipkemboi and Ole Saruni present gathered as Dr. Onyango carefully removed the last of Simba Nguvu's bandages. Beneath them, his eyes, now clear and bright amber, slowly, hesitantly opened. For agonizing seconds he was still, a silent, statuesque form. Then his head gradually rose. His gaze, once unfocused and vacant, began to track. He followed a small bird fluttering past the window, then focused on the distant trees, the vast blue sky, the hushed faces of the people watching him. My God, Kipkemboi whispered, a catch in his throat. He can see. What followed exceeded all expectations. Simba Nguvu rose slowly to his feet, a majestic beast reawakening. He held his head high, a new light in his now-seeing eyes, and then, from deep within his chest, unleashed a triumphant, full-throated roar. It was a sound that carried across the facility, echoing through the air, silencing every other animal, a declaration of his rebirth. Old Saruni, who had watched the entire process with stoic patience, finally broke his silence. His voice, serene and wise, filled the quiet aftermath of the roar. "That is not just a lion who can see again," he said, his gaze fixed on the magnificent creature. "That is a lion who has been reborn, and now he can see what made him blind." Onyango's resolve hardened. Her scientific mind now merged with a fierce determination. Her eyes met Kipkemboi's, reflecting a shared purpose. His eyesight is back. Now we find out who did this. Weeks after his sight was restored, Simba Nguvu's psychological rehabilitation proved complex. Though his eyes now tracked movement, his brain struggled to trust the visual input. "He's seeing, but he's not trusting what he sees," Dr. Onyango explained to Kipkemboi, her voice tinged with both frustration and awe. Simba Nguvu still relied heavily on scent and sound, navigating his enclosure with a blend of hesitant visual checks and deeply ingrained sensory memory. Yet small victories brought glimmers of hope. The first time he truly pounced on a moving toy, rather than simply ambushing it based on sound, was a triumph. The sight of him grooming himself meticulously while looking into a large mirror brought a quiet cheer from the team. "We're witnessing something that has never been documented before," Dr. Onyango told Kipkemboi, her voice buzzing with the thrill of discovery, even as the mystery of his blindness weighed heavily. While Zawadi focused on Simba Nguvu, Kipkemboi began his discreet investigation. He leveraged his extensive network, asking local contacts, other rangers, and even poachers he'd encountered about new industrial activity or unexplained changes near Simba Nguvu's original territory. The silence often was as telling as any answer. On a patrol with Ole Saruni through the vast savannah, their vehicle traversed familiar ground that now felt subtly wrong. Kipkemboi noticed unusual bird migrations, flocks veering off established routes, and patches of sparse, dying vegetation where life had once thrived. The landscape felt muted. "The land cries out, Kipkemboi," Ole Saruni stated gravely, his eyes scanning the horizon. "It is sick." His words resonated with Kipkemboi's growing unease. The pressure began to mount. A subtle but firm call from KWS HQ landed on Kipkemboi's desk. "Ruto," his supervisor's voice was cordial but clipped. "We need to wrap up the Simba Nguvu case. Don't get too emotionally invested. The resources are stretched." It was a clear warning, a bureaucratic nudge to conform, to dismiss the atypical and categorize it as natural. Kipkemboi felt the escalating conflict within him. Expose the hidden truth of a potentially vast environmental crime, or buckle under institutional pressure and risk the wider ecosystem, and potentially more animals, to a slow, unseen death. 3 months into Simba Nguvu's rehabilitation, as the sun dipped towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Kipkemboi spotted movement beyond the facility's perimeter fence. He grabbed his binoculars. Lions. A pride approaching the facility with an impossible, organized purpose. "Dr. Onyango, you need to see this," he yelled, his voice tight with disbelief. A pride of 7, 3 adult females and 4 younger animals, moved with a quiet determination. They displayed no territorial aggression, no fear, only a focused intent. "Impossible," Dr. Onyango muttered, rushing to his side, her own binoculars glued to her eyes. "Wild prides don't approach human facilities like this, let alone with such cohesion." Simba Nguvu, sensing their presence, moved to the fence line, his clear amber eyes fixed on them, and he began making soft chuffing sounds, the intimate vocalizations used for pride communication. The approaching lions responded immediately, their pace quickening as they recognized the familiar calls. "It's his original pride, Kipkemboi realized, a wave of profound emotion washing over him. They found him. Ola Saruni arrived, watching with a deep, knowing understanding. "I told you, the spirits do not take without planning to give something greater in return." They never truly abandoned him. The pride's behavior defied every scientific paper, every known observation of lion social structure. The lionesses, magnificent and powerful, displayed clear signs of recognition and profound affection. They rubbed against the fence, making soft contact calls, their large heads pushing through the wire, desperate to touch their long-lost male. Simba Nguvu, now fully restored, stood tall against the fence, his magnificent mane flowing in the evening breeze. His clear amber eyes, once clouded by poison, took in every detail of his family. He let out a full-throated declaration, not of uncertainty, but of a pride male asserting his position, a defiant roar of reunion. Dr. Onyango, her scientific rigor momentarily overwhelmed by the emotional intensity of the scene, was frantically taking notes, her hand trembling slightly. This bond, this loyalty, it contradicts everything we know about lion social structure. They knew he wasn't just weak, they waited, they remembered. Kipkemboi and Dr. Onyango exchanged a profound look. The pride's organized, loyal return, combined with Simba Nguvu's unique, human-induced blindness, pointed to a clear, unnatural threat that they too were aware of. The truth about the thallium pollution must be bigger than they had imagined. This wasn't just about one lion. It was about an entire ecosystem, a conspiracy that had now touched the very heart of the wild. The rehabilitation team convened, the tension palpable, to debate the unprecedented decision to release Simba Nguvu back to his waiting pride. Onyango, usually so certain, admitted, "There are no protocols for this situation. We're writing the textbook as we go." The pride's persistent vigil at the facility perimeter continued daily, a powerful, organized demonstration of loyalty that defied every scientific paper, every conventional understanding of lion behavior. Kipkemboi, meanwhile, intensified his covert investigation. His network of contacts, a clandestine web woven over years, had yielded results. He now had confirmation. The unique signature of the thallium found in Simba Nguvu matched waste from Kifaru Mining Corp., a powerful operation that had been quietly expanding on the very edge of the reserve. He discreetly gathered satellite imagery showing recent, unauthorized expansion by Kifaru and dark, unnatural runoff plumes visibly snaking into the delicate ecosystem. The evidence was damning. "Maybe we've been underestimating them all along," Kipkemboi confided in Ole Saruni, watching the pride from a distance, their silent presence a constant reminder of the deeper mystery. Their emotional lives, their loyalty, it suggests depths we haven't acknowledged. Ole Saruni smiled, a knowing, ancient wisdom in his eyes. Animals do not pretend to feel what they do not feel. They do not lie about love. They knew he was sick, not weak. They knew his spirit remained strong even when his eyes could not see. They waited. The elder's words reinforced Kipkemboi's conviction that this wasn't just about a poisoned lion, but about a poisoned landscape and a deeper unspoken understanding between man and beast. The silence that followed was broken by the shrill, unsettling ring of Kipkemboi's personal phone. It was an anonymous, chilling call. A disguised, synthesized voice hinted at severe consequences if he continued to interfere with economic development in the region. The message was clear: back off or suffer the repercussions. The corporate arm of Kifaru Mining was long, its reach insidious. Dr. Onyango conducted Simba Nguvu's final medical examination. "From a medical standpoint, he's ready," she confirmed, running her hands over his powerful frame. "His sight is perfect, reflexes sharp, confidence restored." But she paused, her gaze drifting towards the waiting pride. "The real test will be how smoothly he reintegrates with his family and if he guides them to the truth." The release occurred at dawn. The gates of Geno opened, and Simba Nguvu strode out, regal and magnificent, his mane catching the first golden rays of the sun. His pride in a display that defied human language rushed forward, not in a charge of aggression, but a joyous, roaring embrace. Lionesses nuzzled him, cubs swarmed him, their purrs rumbling through the savannah. He was home. After rubbing affectionately against his lionesses, Simba Nguvu turned, his clear amber eyes fixed directly on Kipkemboi and Dr. Onyango, who stood watching from a safe distance. It was a deep, knowing gaze that transmitted profound gratitude, but also a silent, urgent plea: protect our home. Later, Ole Saruni reiterated the unspoken message. "He thanks you, but he also wants you to see what he has seen, the darkness beyond his own eyes. That evening, a jolt of adrenaline shot through Kipkemboi. Tucked into the passenger seat of his KWS vehicle, left anonymously, was a hidden data chip. It contained detailed, suppressed internal reports of illegal waste disposal by Kifaru Mining Corp. This was irrefutable evidence, a gift from an unknown ally within the corporation, or perhaps a disgruntled former employee. The chilling phone call suddenly made more sense. Someone knew he was digging. The threat became palpable. Just hours after Simba Nguvu's release, a Kifaru mining security vehicle, heavy and menacing, was seen dangerously patrolling close to unmonitored areas of the wildlife reserve, areas known to be frequented by Simba Nguvu's pride. The message was clear, the tension escalating. Kipkemboi realized the stakes were higher than ever. His personal risk was immense, his career on the line, but the conspiracy now directly threatened the entire ecosystem and Simba Nguvu's very existence. He knew he could no longer operate within the system. He had to break protocol again, but this time the consequences were far more severe, potentially lethal. He had to act. All right, buckle up, because the story of Ranger Kipkemboi Ruto and Simba Nguvu is about to explode. If you're gripped by this tale of courage, conspiracy, and the unbreakable bond between man and beast, make sure to like this video, share it with everyone you know, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single heart-stopping moment. The danger has never been more real, and what's coming next will shock you to your core. Kipkemboi, Dr. Onyango, and Ole Saruni huddled in the hushed confines of the facility's secure office, the anonymous data chip casting a stark glow from the laptop screen. The evidence was damning, cold, clinical. Kifaru Mining Corp's internal reports detailed years of illegal dumping of highly toxic industrial waste, a chemical fingerprint that precisely matched the thallium traces found in Simba Nguvu. Dr. Onyango, her face grim, confirmed the widespread ecological damage implied by the reports. She cross-referenced the coordinates with recent KWS incident reports, identifying a disturbing cluster of secondary animal poisonings, ungulates, birds, even smaller predators, found dead near the dumping sites. "This isn't just about Simba Nguvu," she murmured, her voice tight with anger. "This is a catastrophe, Kipkemboi. An entire ecosystem is being poisoned." Kipkemboi tried the official channels, presenting his findings to his KWS supervisor. The response was not support, but a chilling warning to stand down. The supervisor's tone, usually gruff but fair, was laced with an unusual menace, hinting at political pressure and powerful interests within the government who clearly benefited from Kifaru mining. The system was rigged. Meanwhile, Kifaru Mining Corp's presence escalated around the preserve. Surveillance drones buzzed overhead like metallic insects. Unexplained heavy equipment rumbled into sensitive zones, tearing at the earth. Suspicious individuals, clearly not tourists, were observed near the illegal dumping sites identified in the reports, their movements furtive and menacing. The air crackled with a new, terrifying tension. Kipkemboi faced an agonizing decision: remain silent, watch his home die, and risk the very animals he swore to protect, or expose the truth and risk everything: his career, his freedom, perhaps his life. "They're trying to blind us all, Zawadi," he told Dr. Onyango, his voice raw with resolve. "Just like they blinded Simba Nguvu." He made his choice. He would leak the information. He contacted Amina Hassan, an independent, fearless investigative journalist known for her tenacity and uncompromising pursuit of truth. She agreed to meet, but her voice held a note of gravity. "Kifaru mining is not just powerful, Kipkemboi," she warned. "They're ruthless. They have a history of making problems disappear, legally and otherwise." As Kipkemboi navigated the escalating human threat, Simba Nguvu and his pride began displaying an unusual, almost intelligent behavior. They consistently led Kipkemboi's patrols, and later Amina's clandestine team, to specific degraded parts of the land, near the suspected dumping zones. The lions moved with a deliberate purpose, their chuffing calls guiding them, their gazes fixed on the poisoned earth. More profoundly, the lions refused to hunt or drink from certain water sources, even when desperate with thirst or hunger. It was an unprecedented display of intelligent self-preservation, a clear signal of their awareness of the contamination. They knew. The confrontation Kipkemboi expected finally arrived. Two hulking Kifaru security operatives intercepted his vehicle on a remote track. They offered a substantial bribe, a stack of crisp bills that mocked his integrity. Forget what you've seen, Ranger. You don't want to make enemies here. Your family is important, no? The veiled threat hung heavy in the stifling air. You don't understand, Kipkemboi retorted, his voice firm, unwavering. The animals understand. They already know. His resolve hardened, the bribe nothing but a repulsive insult. He drove away, leaving them stewing in their impotent rage. A tense meeting with Amina Hassan took place in a remote, hidden gully Kipkemboi had discovered, shielded from prying eyes. He handed over the data chip, along with his own extensive observations and photographic evidence. Amina's expression grew increasingly serious with each piece of information. On their way out, Amina's team was nearly intercepted by Kifaru security vehicles, barely escaping a high-speed chase that confirmed the corporate watch and their desperation. Kipkemboi realized Kifaru would stop at nothing to protect their secret. He and Dr. Onyango reinforced the facility's security, preparing for the inevitable retaliation, fearing the destruction of evidence and worse. Then Simba Nguvu, leading his pride, made a deliberate, prolonged display of distress near a deeply contaminated, hidden gully Kipkemboi hadn't fully investigated yet. The magnificent lion roared, not in defiance but a mournful guttural sound, his head shaking, his eyes fixed on a specific bubbling pool of iridescent water, seemingly showing Kipkemboi the very heart of the problem. This powerful act solidified Kipkemboi's conviction that the lions were not just victims, but intelligent, active participants in exposing the truth, forming a silent, powerful alliance against the human perpetrators. Amina Hassan's explosive expose hit like a wildfire, sweeping across national and international news platforms. Her article, meticulously detailing Kifaru Mining Corp's illegal toxic dumping, their deliberate poisoning of the ecosystem, and the specific case of Simba Nguvu sent shockwaves through the global community. Images of the beautiful lion, once blind, now a symbol of resilience, stood in stark contrast to the incriminating documents she unveiled. Public outrage erupted. KWS, once dismissive, now faced immense pressure from environmental groups, human rights organizations, and a global audience demanding justice. Kifaru Mining predictably issued fierce denials, launching a sophisticated, aggressive smear campaign against both Amina and Kipkemboi, painting them as radicals seeking to undermine legitimate economic development. Forced by the overwhelming public outcry, authorities finally planned a large-scale raid on Kifaru's facilities and the suspected dumping sites. Kipkemboi, his intimate knowledge of the land now invaluable, was asked to lead the ground team. The irony was not lost on him. Kifaru, however, was prepared. As the authorities approached, the mining company deployed armed security and heavy machinery, bulldozing makeshift barriers and blocking access to key sites, clearly attempting to destroy remaining evidence. A tense, dangerous standoff began, KWS Rangers and police facing down armed private security in the heart of the savannah. Kipkemboi, Dr. Onyango, and Ole Saruni guided the authorities, their eyes fixed on the unfolding confrontation. As they cautiously approached a particularly heavily guarded camouflaged area that the anonymous data chip identified as a primary dumping ground, a shadow fell over them. From the dense bush bordering a ridge, Simba Nguvu and his entire pride emerged. They positioned themselves strategically, a silent, powerful force overlooking the standoff, their golden eyes fixed on the scene below. Then, with an intelligence that defied explanation, the lions executed a carefully orchestrated, synchronized movement. Simba Nguvu led, his powerful roar echoing across the landscape, followed by the deep rumbling growls of his pride. They moved in unison, a wave of tawny muscle and fierce determination, effectively hurting the bewildered Kifaru security guards. They didn't attack, but their strategic advance pushed the guards away from their defensive positions towards a deeply hidden, illegal toxic waste lagoon that Kifaru had painstakingly tried to conceal. Kifaru security, momentarily distracted and utterly bewildered by the majestic organized lions, hesitated. The unexpected living force of nature was not in their training manual. This brief window of confusion allowed KWS Rangers and police to breach their defenses, storming past the disoriented guards. The horrifying sight of the toxic lagoon that awaited them was an ecological nightmare brought to life. A vast, iridescent pool of bubbling sludge, its fumes burning the throat, lay nestled in a gully, surrounded by dead trees and barren earth. It was an undeniable, irrefutable confirmation of Kipkemboi's evidence and the devastating extent of the corporate conspiracy. Simba Nguvu, standing tall on the ridge, let out a powerful, echoing roar, a sound of pure triumph and defiance that reverberated across the savannah, a primal declaration of victory, as if celebrating the unveiling of the truth. On-site executives from Kifaru Mining, caught red-handed, and several corrupt government officials whose names were found in the illicit documentation were arrested. Wider investigations into environmental crimes and governmental cover-ups began across the region, promising a cascade of revelations. Dr. Onyango, amidst the chaos, quickly confirmed similar power buttons in tissue samples from other affected wildlife from wider areas, confirming the broader environmental disaster and cover-up. Kipkemboi's integrity was vindicated, his name cleared, but his career in the conventional KWS was uncertain. He had chosen the animals and the truth over political safety, a decision he accepted without regret. Saruni, watching the justice unfold from beside Kipkemboi, placed a hand on his shoulder. The spirits gave Simba Nguvu sight not just to see the world, but to help the world see the hidden evil. The wild has its own justice, Kipkemboi. Weeks later, the land slowly began its long, painful process of healing. Kifaru Mining faced massive legal action and unprecedented public outcry, their empire crumbling. Simba Nguvu's pride, their territory safe once more, thrived, a testament to resilience. Kipkemboi, watching Simba Nguvu roam free, a king truly restored, finally understood the profound truth. The bond between humans and nature was sacred, an unspoken alliance. Sometimes the most magnificent creatures were the ones who taught us how to truly see while revealing a far greater, terrifying conspiracy hidden in plain sight. The journey began with the familiar crackle of a radio and the weathered voice of an elder, signaling a plight that transcended the usual dangers of the Masai Mara. Ranger Kipkemboi Ruto, a man of 15 years dedicated to its wild heart, had thought he'd seen everything. But the blind lion Simba Nguvu was more than just an injured predator. He was the key to a chilling discovery, an unnatural phenomenon rooted in human greed. Kipkemboi's agonizing decision to intervene against protocol set in motion a chain of events that unraveled a terrifying corporate cover-up. The evidence of thallium, the sinister presence of Kifaru Mining Corp., and the escalating threats all pointed to a truth far darker than mere environmental neglect. Yet, amidst the human corruption and danger, the wild revealed its own profound intelligence. Simba Nguvu's miraculous recovery, followed by the unprecedented loyalty and strategic actions of his pride, forged a silent alliance. These magnificent creatures, once victims, became active participants in exposing the conspiracy. Their collective roar, leading authorities to the hidden toxic lagoon, was not just a sound of triumph but an echo of justice from the heart of the savannah. Kipkemboi's choice to protect his home and its inhabitants, even at immense personal cost, proved that true courage often lies in listening to the whispers of the wild and revealing the hidden evils that threaten to blind us all.